Well, good afternoon. If it's Mondays at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, it's Mondays with Michael live here on Facebook. Thanks for those of you who are joining me today in the room, and thanks for those of you who are watching this post-session. If you're not following us on social media, please do here on Facebook. We have a corporate fan page, Training Solutions Inc., and if you're following us on LinkedIn, we also have one there. And if you're following this or seeing this on Twitter, we also have one there too. So please follow us on social media. We post regularly about all things business, I would say. We do a lot of supervisory skills tips and training, leadership tips and training. We do some things on HR. We do some things straight up on training, and then there's other business tips along the way that we find in other social media aspects. We tend to retweet and repost those things. So please follow us. Welcome today, and today is our third in our three-part series on leadership. For those of you following, the last couple of weeks we've been talking about The Work of Leaders, book written by Wiley Publishing 2 years back. A lot of research on leadership, and for the last 2 weeks we've been working on the model, the three-step model. So we talked about DISC first, and in this program we also learned about DISC. Participants learn about their DISC style. They learn about DISC style as regards to leadership, their approach to leadership based on their DISC style. So we do spend some time talking about that, but then we actually get to the model, which is outlined in the book. And if you don't have a copy of the book, I'm happy to send you one. We have some here in the office. I'm happy to send you a copy of the book. It's a fairly easy read. It does go through a lot of case study work around the model. So if you haven't read it yet, it's a really easy read. It's got, it's a half a day at the beach or at the pool read, and pick up a few tips about leadership. Probably good use of your time. But we talked about crafting a vision, and under crafting a vision, we talked about the behaviors of exploration, boldness, and testing assumptions. Those three drivers, which leads to behaviors. And then we talked about building alignment. So now we crafted the vision, gotta get everyone in alignment on the team or in the organization. Talked about that last week, as that being one of the hardest parts of being a leader is building alignment around the vision. But today we're going to talk about champion execution. So we're assuming here that the vision has been created, everyone's wrapped around that vision or feels comfortable with that vision. You've built alignment, everyone's kind of ready to go, they're ready to get started. So now we're going to champion execution. So when we look at where we're talking about champion execution, well, again, there are three drivers we're going to look at. We're going to talk about all three of them. First is momentum, the second is structure, and then the third is feedback. So let's get right in it. So when you're champion execution, it's time to drive the engine. It's time to get going. It's time to move this thing forward. And there are two behaviors we look at under momentum. The first is being driven. Now, we work with a lot of leaders that tend to be laid back a little bit, and being laid back most of the time is okay, but there are some times that you're going to have to step it up and help drive the team. You have to pull on that DI behavior during the DISC model, and you have to drive the team. So you need to initiate action, and you need to be driven. These are the two behaviors we talk about in how momentum drives execution. So be driven, be initiating, be the change agent. Go in there and be bold. Talked about that earlier. So now you got to drive that a little bit. You got to drive that a little bit. So that's the first thing we look at. The second thing we look at in execution is structure. Again, depending on where you are on the DISC model, this may be easy for you, this may be difficult for you, but under structure, we look at two behaviors, planning and analyzing in depth, because you're going to have to do this along the way as you're executing the vision. So have a plan, work the plan, make sure you keep an eyeball on the plan, and then you may need to do a little analysis along the way to see if this vision is actually moving forward. So the two behaviors here we look at and we measure are planning and analyzing in depth. And then the third driver, I should say, in execution is feedback. So now that you're moving the train down the road, if you will, you have to be able to address problems, and you have to be able to offer praise. And these are two of the things we look at in this step, this driver. So addressing problems. Are you able to address problems? Are you able to solve conflict? Are you able to have these conversations? And then making sure you offer more praise. Now, you don't have to jump on the table and scream about the moon, but when somebody does something good on the team, or somebody does well in a division of the team, need to offer praise. Work with a lot of leaders to say, Michael, I pay my employees to do their job, and they should be happy just to do their job. And I kind of disagree with that. If somebody does a little extra job, a little attaboy once in a while, isn't going to hurt you. We'll definitely say something to them. So make sure you're offering praise along the way. And if you want to, make that shorter praise, you don't want to do it all the time, I definitely understand that. But you got to say good job once in a while. You got to be able to say that individually or to the team collectively. So those are the behaviors, and those are the 3 drivers in champion execution. So at this point in the program, we've gone through the 18 behaviors, we've gone through the 3 steps, we've gone through the nine drivers. So now we've done the 18 behaviors. So what happens next? So in the program, what we do is we start by taking a look at what are the 3 areas that you're really strong in, because those are obviously the areas you want to keep doing well. So on page 20 of the assessment, we walk through participants' understanding of the 3 things they do really well. And the assessment highlights that. We want to make sure they understand that. But we turn the page, and on the next 3 pages are the 3 areas within the assessment that the leader does not great in. I don't want to say poorly, because it's probably something that you're just not comfortable doing. And we talked about stretching in this program, trying some new behaviors. And we find that in almost all cases of the 18 behaviors, most leaders do half or a little more really well. 9 to 11 behaviors they do really well. The other half, they don't, not so much. It's not in their sweet spot. They're not comfortable doing it. It's a stretch for them to do it. And this is the area of the program we really want them to set an action plan to try some new things. So on the subsequent 3 pages in the assessment, there's some case study information, and there's some tips on how to get you to stretch, some tips on how to try this behavior out, to stretch yourself out as a leader. So we go through all these. We go through these 3 areas. We break folks down into small groups, and sometimes we even put them into pairs. And they get a chance to share some real-life situations. They get to share some things they really want to try. We try to encourage, and when we can, we really want to do this. We want to get folks in teams of 2 or 3. We want them to build accountability partners. It's very, very important when people come to this type of training that they feel accountable to each other. They feel accountable to the organization. So we try to get folks in teams of 2 and 3. We try to get them to work on these 3 areas. We try to get them to commit. Sometimes we'll even get them to stand up and commit what they're going to work on within the program. And then we ask them to reconvene with their accountability partners sometime over the next week or 2 weeks to continue the learning going. We also encourage them to use the book. If they haven't read the book prior to coming to the session, we always give them the book when they come to the session. For organizations that have a book club, this is a nice book club for leaders. I mean, it's not a heavy lift. It's not a heavy read. You can do it over a course of time, a couple chapters at a time, but you're applying that new model to the workplace, and you're applying it to real situations within the workplace. We do run a group report, so when we do this with groups of leaders, the assessment does give us the ability to run a group report. Interesting when we do that, because a lot of leaders tend to hire a lot of folks like themselves, so we see the same strengths in a lot of the leaders and the same shortcomings in the same leadership team. So that's a good discussion post-session or a follow-up session. Let's do the group report. Let's talk about what the strengths are on the team based on the participants of this team, and what areas does the team need to, kind of keep mindful of, because the team may be short in these areas. So that's some of those things we do in the classroom. I see we're coming up to the end of my time. I do want to tell you all that we are kind of taking the summer off. We did this last summer too. We're taking the summer off from Mondays with Michael Live. We will post some previous bests, if you will, or some reruns if you're watching TV. So we'll do some reruns along the summer, but we'll be back after Labor Day with some more live sessions. We'll be planning on what those sessions will be. If you have some tips on what sessions you'd like to hear from us, let us know. But I thank you for hanging out with me today. If you're watching this post session, thank you for watching Mondays with Michael Live here on Facebook. And have a great summer. As I said, we'll put some reruns out there over the next few weeks, but then we'll go back live again in September. Have a great summer. Take care.